In the sacred scripture of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17 unfolds as a luminous discourse on the nature of faith, aptly named Śraddhātraya-Vibhāga-Yoga, or the Yoga of the Division of Threefold Faith. This chapter poetically explores the triad of faiths that arise from the essence of human nature. The serene and pure faith of the Sattvic, the passionate and desirous faith of the Rajasic, and the ignorant and dark faith of the Tamasic. As Krishna's divine voice guides Arjuna through the labyrinth of human belief, he reveals how these faiths shape our rituals, our food, our sacrifices, and even our charity. Each verse is a beacon, illuminating the path to understanding how our inner qualities dictate our outer actions and the purity of our spiritual endeavors. In this chapter, the Gita sings a symphony of wisdom, showing us that true faith and righteous actions are those that align with the divine, performed with sincerity and without the taint of ego or expectation. Thus, it calls us to introspection, urging us to elevate our nature and harmonize our lives with the sublime cadence of the divine will. Verse 1. Arjuna asks Krishna about the nature of faith in those who worship with faith but disregard scriptural rules. Verse 2. Krishna explains that faith arises from one's inherent qualities and is classified into three types: Sattvic, pure; Rajasic, passionate; and Tamasic, ignorant. Verse 3. Each person's faith corresponds to their nature, and their faith determines the kind of worship they perform. Verse 4. Sattvic people worship gods, Rajasic people worship demigods and demons, and Tamasic people worship ghosts and spirits. Verse 5 to 6. Those who perform severe austerities not prescribed by the scriptures, driven by ego and desires, harm their body and mind and are considered tamasic. Verse 7. Food also has three classifications based on the qualities of nature: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Verse 8. Sattvic food is fresh, juicy, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Verse 9. Rajasic food is bitter, sour, salty, very hot, pungent, dry, and causes pain and disease. Verse 10. Tamasic food is stale, tasteless, foul-smelling, decomposed, and impure. Verse 11. Sattvic sacrifices are performed according to scriptural rules, without desire for rewards, and with a pure mind. Verse 12. Rajasic sacrifices are performed for show, and with the desire for rewards. Verse 13. Tamasic sacrifices are performed without regard to rules, without distributing food, without mantras, without giving fees to priests, and without faith. Verse 14. Sattvic penance of the body involves worship of gods, Brahmins, teachers, and wise ones, as well as cleanliness, honesty, celibacy, and non-violence. Verse 15. Sattvic penance of speech involves truthful, pleasant, beneficial, and non-agitating speech, and regular recitation of scriptures. Verse 16. Sattvic penance of the mind involves serenity, kindness, silence, self-control, and purity of thought. Verse 17. Sattvic penance, performed with utmost faith without expectation of reward, is considered pure. Verse 18. Rajasic penance is performed for respect, honor, and reverence, and is unstable and transient. Verse 19. Tamasic penance is performed with foolish obstinacy, self-torture, or to harm others. Verse 20. Sattvic charity is given at the right place and time to a deserving person, without expectation of return, and with a sense of duty. Verse 21. Rajasic charity is given with reluctance or with the expectation of some return. Verse 22. Tamasic charity is given at the wrong place and time, to undeserving persons, without respect and with contempt. Verse 23. The sacred syllable Om Tat Sat is used to denote the supreme truth and is used in Vedic rituals and practices. Verse 24. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are commenced with the utterance of Om by those who follow the Vedic traditions. Verse 25. Uttering Tat, without seeking reward, people perform acts of sacrifice, penance, and charity for the Supreme. Verse 26 to 27. The word Sat indicates the reality and goodness. Steadfastness in sacrifice, penance, and charity, and performing such acts are also called Sat. Verse 28. Acts performed without faith, whether sacrifice, charity, or penance, are impermanent and futile, both in this life and the next.